Hello again, welcome back everyone. LiquorHound here with you, and thank you for joining me once again for another spirit review video. Today we're going to be comparing the original Barrell Craft Spirits Seagrass Rye to the brand new 16-year-old, really high proof Seagrass. Okay, now when Barrell came out with the original, this is probably early 2021, maybe late 2020, depending on which state you're in. But for me, it was 2021, and it kind of hit the market really quietly. And I remember getting to taste it, and I was just like, wow, that's super unusual and pretty tasty. And so I was really impressed with it early on. It's a combination of rye whiskeys to begin with. So you look on the back, it'll say distilled in Kentucky, Indiana, Tennessee, and Canada. So they're sourcing from all those places to get that rye whiskey. There is no age statement on this bottle. The only thing it tells you is that it was aged in a combination of French Martinique rum casks, Madeira casks, and the apricot Brandy casks. And ABV-wise, 118.4 proof. That is very, very high proof for that price point around $80-85. Now, on the bottle, it says that there is 13,270 bottles. But that's per batch, okay? And if you look right here where the blue meets the green, you'll probably need a magnifying glass. I know I did. There is a very tiny number hidden right there in that corner, and that's going to be the batch number. And this happens to be bottled from batch number 1, but I got to taste batch 5 recently, and it was pretty similar. As a matter of fact, I think I could pick out a little more of the rum cask in batch 5, but the apricot Brandy cask was even more intense, which, I don't know, if you like really sweet things, you'd probably love 5 more than 1. I kind of like them a little more in balance, so I prefer 1 over 5. Alright, but again, $80-85. Now, recently they came out with the 16-year-old age-stated Seagrass Rye. This one was retail pricing around $250, probably out the door, right around there. The only thing different bottle-wise is the cap. The cap is metal, so it's a lot heavier. And it is bottled at 130.8 proof. Now, another thing that's big different, well, actually this is pretty, big difference, is that this is only from one distillery. It's a Canada distillate. So there's no Kentucky, no Tennessee, no Indiana rye in here. This is all 16-year-old Canadian rye. Gets the same finishing treatments. It's still going into the French Martinique, the Madeira, and the apricot Brandy cask. So we're going to compare them side by side here. I'm going to give you what my thoughts on each of them. Starting with batch 1, give it a nice little coat. Alright, here we go. Now keep in mind, one thing that I typically do with my bottles is I'll use argon gas on them. So once I open it up, if I feel it's in a good spot, I'll start gassing it. This bottle I have not gassed. I just wanted, as a matter of fact, I haven't gassed this one either, because I really wanted to see where it was going to go. And so this may have changed from my original video, but let's see. Yeah, I will say that, you know, the one thing I do recall is that the apricot wasn't huge initially, and that's kind of where this is. I am picking out more of the Madeira coming through now that it's opening up. So more of that plumminess, more of that almost like a fig, pomegranate type element in here. It's really sweet. You do get the apricots in there. As far as the rye, you're picking up the rye spice on the nose. You know, lots of cinnamon. Maybe even a little bit of fennel. That's developing. I don't remember that being in there. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. I think the finishing casks really cover up a lot of the rye characteristic in it, at least on the nose for now. And now I'm going to nose it side by side with the 16-year-old. Again, we're going from 118.4 proof to 130.8 here. Again, coat that glass really nice. Okay. Yeah, this is definitely more caramel, more butterscotch heavy. I do pick up more of the rum, the French Martinique, where you start getting that raw vegetal sugarcane distillate. That's in here. It gives a little bit of funkiness, because those do have a little funk to them. That's in here. Matter of fact, this one is focusing more on the rum than it is on the, and then I guess second place would be the Madeira, and for right now, the apricot Brandy cask. because again, you do get those kind of dark fruits from the Madeira, but they're tucked behind all that really sweet caramel butterscotch and that little bit of that vegetal kind of grassy rum note. But I will say that for ABV wise, it's not like pushing me out of the glass. So at 130, it's really nice. It's opened up very well. All right, let's go to the taste, starting with the original Seagrass, 118.4 proof. It's starting to sweeten up a little bit with the apricot. And I'm starting to pick up a little more fruit now. Okay, here we go. Oh, that's nice. Lots of, it does, on the nose, it seems like the casks are really covering up the rye, but on the palate, the rye jumps and springs forward. Okay, here we go. Enters right away that really nice rye punch of the grain. You almost get a lot of grape skins right there with it. Caramel. And then you start getting into those dark fruits, so we're starting to get those dates, I would say golden raisins, the fig. There's a little bit of almost like a pomegranate freshness, a little vibrancy to those darker fruits that I can attribute here. As you start hitting that mid palate, you get that rye spice and you start feeling that ABV swell because it is 118, so you start feeling that hit, the heat hit on the mid palate. And then it really softens and starts rolling over on the back end to a lot of dark chocolate, lots of old leather, a little bit of citrus oil on the back end as well. I think it's a little more orange than yeah, it's a little more orange than lemon, but there is a little bit of lemon oil in there. And then on the finish is where the apricot just really starts laying on really heavy. Right here, I'm still just, now it's focusing a little more on that apricot brandy. Really, really long finish. Okay, let's try that one more time. Okay, right up front, there is a little bit of that, the French Martinique rum grassiness. There is a little bit of that funk early as well. I was just so hit with that rye and that grape skin press initially. I wasn't focusing on that, but that is in there and it hits early. You do get a little bit of a light, I would call that a little more like a black cherry tone to it as well. Starts riding up, there's that big spice swell. Light, I would say that's a very, very light nuttiness, almost like a light toasted almond as it starts rolling over to the back end. It's verging on coffee bean. There's like a roasted coffee, roasted almond tone. As far as that little unique spice characteristic of fennel that I was picking up on the nose, it's in there, but it's so light, and it's actually running underneath everyone else. It's super subtle. So if you don't like, you know, kind of like the licorice type thing, don't worry, it's not like really hitting on the palate. But overall, the apricot is what really lingers. It's probably going to be the most memorable part of this rye whiskey for you. I think they did a really good, really great job on that one. Yeah, there's really nothing wrong with it. Batch 1 was fantastic. Not overly sweet, overly focused on the apricot. Again, batch 5 definitely is sweeter than 1. So if you like sweet whiskeys or a little sweeter component, look for the 5. Okay, now let's see what the 16-year-old has done. Let me do a double rinse. 130.8 proof. I think it's like 7,700 bottles of this one, and I don't remember if there's batches on this. I'll have to check that corner, but I don't think so. But here we go, on the nose. Just double checking. Already given you all the caramel, the butterscotch. Yeah, it hasn't really changed much yet as it's been open here in the glass. Let's go to the taste. Wow. it's impactful. Not super complex, but it is very, very bold with that ABV and with the flavor. Okay, there we go. Yeah, again, more on the butterscotch. A little bit of caramel underneath that. More grass. So again, more of that French Martinique is in the 16-year-old. You get that sweet grassiness right up front. You start getting that rye spice right behind it. Again, cinnamon, a little bit of maybe anise in this one. Little touch, yeah, a little touch of fennel. And then you get a little bit of that toasted almond. This does not go towards the coffee bean that this one was on the roast. Fruit-wise, component-wise of the Madeira, I'm not picking up as much here as I was getting here. So I would say maybe a little bit of, just a touch of like a brandy cherry. Yeah, brandied cherries are in there. A little bit of orange oil, but that's about it. Like, I'm not getting a ton of fruit on it. Yeah, that sweet grassy funk a little bit up front. Start picking up the spice well. Get the nice rich oak. You do pick that up early before the mid palate, right as it's starting to swell in the spice. You get a little bit of that fruit right as about you're hitting that mid palate before I even start picking up fruit. And again, just a little bit of brandied cherries. You could talk me into a little bit of raspberry. Maybe a little bit of, I guess it kind of has a little similarity to that raspberry part to that little pomegranate essence that I was picking up in this one. On the back end, then, it's where we start seeing the apricot slowly ease in. Yep. Apricot and oak, and that's about it. Like, it's not complex, but given the ABV, given the age statement, I don't have a problem with it. And that price point, you know, $250. That's not horrible considering where some, you know, are pricing those rye whiskeys at, like Whistle Pig, for example. I mean, you can get the 15-year-old, but it's much lower proof for about $250, about the same price. And then you start getting into the Boss Hogs. Of course, they can start hitting closer to this ABV. They don't reach really this one. And even those are, you know, 600, 700 now, something like that. So price point wise, I'm okay with it. I actually think this one is better with a little water. I don't have a dropper, but I'm going to carefully, there we go. I'm going to add a little water to it. I actually think this one's going to be better with water because it seemed really tight, not only on the nose, but also on the palate. So 130 may be a really cool number to look at in the bottle, but when you're tasting it, sometimes whiskeys and well, all spirits, if they're really high ABV, sometimes they'll open up a lot more just with a little additional water. But of course, when you add water, you have to give it time to open back up, because if you go right at it, it's going to be really spicy, really oaky if it's old and aged in wood. So here we go. Okay, fruits are popping a lot more now. Now I'm starting to pick up more of like a dried apples. Dried apples, a little bit of those, yeah, a lot of those plum skins. I was going to say a little bit of that brandied cherries is intensified. A little bit of that raspberry, that pomegranate is still in here. I would say it popped the citrus a little more as well. So now I'm picking up more of that lemon oil to go along with the orange. Ah, that's much better. It brings an elegance to it. Whereas without it, it was just super bold and kind of like, you know, a little biting. Now that you add the water to it, softens some of those edges, opens it up, starts releasing a little more flavor. A little more, I would say almost a little more brown sugar now. In with the caramel, in with the butterscotch. You get that apple, and I would call this one, it's not like red apple, this is more like golden apples. You get that almost plumminess of the grape skins now. You still get the brandy cherries, you still get that raspberry pomegranate thing happening. Wow, the grape skins really kind of bumped up on the mid palate as well. They kind of came in, they went away, and then they came right back. Rye spice is still there, but now it's a little more toned down thanks to the water. Of course, you're still getting the cinnamon, that little bit of anise, a little bit of fennel, those are in there. On the back end, it really starts focusing again more on that apricot. A little bit of cocoa, not as much as here because it's not going to that coffee kind of tone. This is staying a little more. I still get the little almond slivers, not quite toasted, but those are in there. And you get that lot of that orange oil laying on the finish as well. Overall, it's a really good whiskey at $2.50. I don't have a problem again. But I hope you enjoyed this video review and got to see them side by side. Again, look for them out there. Check those batch numbers so you can know what you're getting into. I haven't had batch 3 yet. So if you get a batch 3 and you know, see similarities or differences with what I'm saying, feel free to let us know in the comments. We'd greatly appreciate each and every one of those. Of course, if you like content like this and want me to be able to keep doing it, please join us over at patreon.com/LiquorHound. That's where I'm able to, keep sourcing these bottles myself so I can do these reviews independently. So thank you as always. Until next time, everyone have a great day and cheers.